Can open my eyes. That expression, cultivating trust in oneself, came from Vivekananda. And as most of you know, most of the traditional sadhus in India that followed the path of Vedanta, that led to the goal of Satchitananda, consciousness, existence, bliss, which is the state after mind has disappeared. They always had the suffix ananda. So viveka in Sanskrit, discernment, penetrating insight, ananda being the goal of such insight. So his path was Gnana Yoga, the path of wisdom. Advaita is the path of wisdom. It's not the path of devotion. Not that it's separate from, but its highlight is quite different. He apparently created quite a stir at what used to be an annual event in London many years ago, where certain well-known personalities in religion or truth or spirituality would address a congregation, and the congregation was large because there were many people interested in various paths. And he was the only speaker that didn't say, ladies and gentlemen. He said, brothers and sisters. And they'd never heard this way of being addressed before. My dear brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen. And because he was so radically to the point, and he touched a chord within many, he became the speaker. My teacher, as a young man, was also working in the Ramakrishna mission in London. True to his form, he would come to the point and he was quite clear about things. And when he was working is not the way, when he was doing seva, when he was doing whatever your word is, assisting the community, one of the things he was asked to do was to, before each satsang, was to clean the picture or the idol or whatever was with a gold duster. And apparently the way was that that duster for that image, and this duster is for that image, and this duster is for him. And I don't know if he was just so beyond that, or he was making a point, I don't know. But he would just use the same word. It was sacrilege. Because their attitude was clearly founded in separation and duality and hierarchy and. Whereas the spirit of Appa couldn't see those boundaries like they were seeing them. It is the one. And it was his way. And the only reason he left the Ramakrishna mission was that in one of the people who were working there somehow invited him for tea or something. I can't remember the details. And he saw a photograph of Ramana Maharshi. He just took one look at those eyes and they recognized something. But it's not recognition with a small r, which is peculiar to the mind. It was recognition with a capital R, of soul, recognizing soul. And that was the meeting. Just one look into those eyes. There was no story. He didn't know who, what, name, how, why. But that was that instant connection that goes beyond mind. And then he found out that there is that person alive in India. And he was a practicing homeopathic doctor at the time who had a clear gift for healing. He could see what was wrong before the patient even voiced anything. He sold his practice, did the best he could, palming his patients onto other homeopathic doctors, and then got on a boat and went to India and never came back. And that was a case of self-recognition, but not with a small s. So we can recognize, as we all do in the waking dream, what's already in us at a human level, because you can't recognize what's not in you. You'll never see what's not in you. So that kind of recognition is peculiar to our state in the waking dream, or in the matrix. It's another way of saying the waking dream. And then there is the higher recognition, which has nothing to do with the head, nothing to do with the self, the personal self. It has everything to do with what you are. And that capital R, recognition, is what Vivekananda was pointing to and saying, nurture that tiny insight that you have had. Nurture it. Nurture the seed thought that you are the self. It is a little difficult for somebody on the path of bhakti, although bhakti is the most beautiful run-up to it. The main difference between bhakti and what Vivekananda was with Advaita was that with bhakti there's always two. You can't be devotion unless there's a devotee, that which is devoted, and the act of devotion. And Vivekananda had gone beyond that, where everything is perceived as not separate from, and therefore no hierarchies, etc., etc. So his plea, his call to his fellow men in the waking dream, when you have that touch of otherworldliness, don't try and understand it, but start to believe when you have that wow moment, whether it's looking at something, experiencing someone, seeing a little detail that just sweeps you away. What is it that's being so touched? Why am I touched? Is it recognition? No, not as the mind knows that word. Is it recognition with a capital R of the soul recognizing its essence? That's different. And what am I prone to believe? You don't even have to go there. We're prone to believe we are this body-mind-sense complex. We even say it has a soul. Whereas the soul has this body-mind-sense complex as an impediment. Our orientation is just so different. And because Appa had a very clear insight that everything is part of God, he wasn't readily understood by fellow devotees who saw two all the time. And that's why this cloth must be for that one. And this duster must only be for that one. I think Appa either couldn't hear it, he'd gone beyond, or he was saying, okay, but this is my way. One time that I was in India, when I was leaving, he said, just when I was living in Natal, he said, it's a nice Ramakrishna mission in Natal. I know the Swami there, send him my regards. And the moment I said, Appa, oh. So just to take a look at that theme and in relation to aspects of Appa. When Christ said, unless you become like little children, there's no way. What is it that that little child has got, or rather what hasn't it got, that the adult has got? It has no self-image yet. It's not governed by shoulds and shouldn'ts. It's not living in the adult two-pole universe yet. It's still in the unified field, which makes it blissful, happy, spontaneous, joyful. One could say it is abiding in the self, capital S. Now, if it comes from a loving, normal family, then yes. And is it scared of anything? The complete opposite. It actually wants to become intimate with everything. And what's the most intimate place? It's to put it in your mouth. And we've all seen little children, to the mother's horror, what it puts into its mouth. It's whatever, there's no thought, there's no fear, and certainly no karma occurring. I remember one incident. There was a little baby just learning how to crawl, And Appa was visiting a particular chalet. I happened to be there. And this little baby was quite close to the steps, and the mother was quite anxious and was just about to run up and snatch her away from the step, and Appa said, "Stop that." And what went on in her mind, but, I think of the child's perspective. It doesn't know what meaning is. It does relate to feeling. And what is the feeling of the energy field that's rushing towards it in the form of mother, panicking? It's not an energy it's happy with. And if it's going to do anything, it'll cause it to make a mistake and fumble. Appa said, in other words, be quiet. All is perfect. It's your fear that's the problem. And mother was quite surprised, and it was quite interesting for me to see this little baby come up to the edge of the step, crawling, feeling the edge, going back a little bit, coming forward a little bit, feeling the edge, and then smiling, and then turning around, feeling it with its feet, and then realizing it could actually touch the next one. And then it somehow managed to get it all spontaneously, because there was no fear. Now Mom snatches it away, and now that could be the birth of a little bit of uncertainty relating to stairs, because stairs equaled this anxious field, this feeling of anxiety. And by association, you might be causing more than you can imagine. And that's all that Appa was trying to preempt. Just leave it. And to experience that incident was a proof that we are not separate from this infinite intelligence that governs everything, which was last week's theme. That cosmic intelligence is but one, played through all the different life forms, whether it's a fly or a cockroach. When a little child sees a cockroach, and an adult, normal, street-level adult, sees a cockroach, if it's lying on its back and moving quietly, the little child might even put it in its mouth. But what an adult is going to do, because what the adult is recognizing has nothing to do with truth. And it's not what needs to be cultivated. So when there is a moment of jaw-dropping, when you just can't believe the beauty of something, the magnificence of something you've always taken for granted, you're recognizing something, but in the right way. And when you see it as being brought into manifestation by the same intelligence that's governing every molecule everywhere, it creates a bond of being as opposed to a relationship. So you've heard me remark about this before. If a fly had to come down and share my soup with me, it's an honor. How must my field be? Must be quite quiet. If I was anxious and here's the fly coming, he's not going to relax and enjoy the porridge. And when you are graced by the fly, it's quite a step that you've actually made, maybe without realizing it. The way I see things If there's an empathy that is there, then it's a bit different. What I need to be on the guard against is what thought I allow to arise about me. Because that is going to mold. What is that thought about me? Is it about self or the self? And because in the matrix we are attached to this identification of the body-mind, as spiritual as we might be, to greater or lesser extent, we are attached to it. And quite rightly so in one arena. So if I had to look, again, just while it's here, we're just talking about the pot. So as you are starting to become aware, it isn't a pot. And if it's not a pie, if it's not a pot, it's not a fly. It's only a pot when I'm in my mind of labels, which is namarupa. Swarupa is the essential, and I'm not separate from it. If we look at the metaphor, that's very similar to potness. Can anybody define potness? Can you define clayness? At least we're seeing there's a difference, I hope, between the pot and the clay. And then I hope that the pot can be seen as an illusion. Because what is it in the absence of clay? What is pot in the absence of clay? Oops, there's no pot. Because pot depends for its existence on clay. It's dependent, which is called mithya. The independent is satyam. So let's just look at a metaphor relating to this identification. Potness, again, is not the truth. Clay is the truth. Potness is an incidental attribute of that clay in the mind. Now I'm a drop. I've come from the sea through evaporation. I've been swept in a direction with all the other moisture particles, and a cloud starts to form, and the drop size gets bigger. It's still able to stay there because of updrafts, but then on collision with other water molecules, it does get bigger. And as it gets bigger, it's able to overcome the updraft, and then it can start as rain. Now you're one of the drops, and you're all on a pilgrimage. All the other drops are with you. You're going back to source. You're going back to Mother Ocean. And everybody with you is on the same journey. And you're all excited because you're going home. And all the way down, oh, double trouble. Sorry, most people in the room are with the cats at the door, so I'm just pausing, waiting till they're back in the room again. Two beautiful cats. But they want to come in. Oh, there's one now. Okay. I got half them back. All right, so these drops are falling. And imagine I am this drop on this pilgrimage. I'm going home. There's only one home, and I'm going there. And we're all on this together. And then when I'm within a few hundred meters of the ocean, I start getting ground rush. Like any parachutist will tell you, it's beautiful and serene on the way down, except for the last 200 meters. Then suddenly, you get ground rush. You're realizing that things can go wrong. Now, can you imagine if you're a water molecule? Just before you hit the deck, what's about to be lost? And what's about to be gained? I've taken myself to be this body-mind-sense complex, this patness, this spotness, this dropness. I've taken myself to be that. What's going to happen to that? It's going to be annihilated, or is emerging. But what's the fear of dropness? All that is ever known is its name and its form. And now there's ground rush. It's getting real now. What's going to happen to me? What do I have to lose in order to gain the whole? Is there any drop left after it's hit the ocean, or is it just one ocean? So what is about to be lost, and what is about to be gained? And this might be where Vivekananda was pointing to. We hold on to the known, and we don't nurture oneself. Because I'm stuck to my name and my form. So what to do about this? First, now that the words are out, it will come in the daily round. You will have moments when you will stop and pause, because these words can't be reeled in now, they're out of me and in you. I don't know why. But there will be times when you can't say anything. You don't know anything. And maybe that needs to be kindled. But not if there is a fear of that. That's the problem. Because remember, the first and the third arenas look alike. There's a dead stillness, there's clean rajas, and there's a living stillness. What Advaita Vedanta, and I think Advaita Vedanta is probably more clear than any other branch of Hindu or Western spirituality or religion makes clear is that there is no separation, and if there is no separation, there cannot be a God as we know it. Now, isn't that absolute blasphemy to a bhakti? You can't say that to a bhakti, because he won't understand the context from which you are coming. So, is there a God? To a bhakti, yes. To Vivekananda, no. So look at our Western culture. What is an atheist? Somebody who doesn't believe in God is the normal definition. Vivekananda would say, no, that's not blasphemy. If you don't believe in yourself, capital S, that's blasphemy. That's untrue. So what am I watering in everyday life? It depends where my thoughts are landing. And if they are anything to do with self-reprimand or guilt or anything pertaining to the mind or the small self, is prohibiting any growth of what Vivekananda is pointing to. So how is what he is pointing to realizable? What in me aids that, and what takes it into the reverse direction? Can I feel good about myself? Am I allowed to feel good about myself? Or is that narcissistic? See, this is the problem. Being really comfortable with who you are and happy who you are could be mistaken by somebody who's solidly in their heads as a little bit of narcissism here. But if you're really happy with who you are, and you've been cultivating the knowingness that comes from these moments of mindfulness, this is cultivating self-knowledge, self-awareness. If I'm harboring negative thoughts of others, doubtful thoughts, whatever thoughts, know that they belong to me and not to the other. So it's very good to remember that when I have negative thoughts. They impact on me and it might not have anything to do with others. Why am I recognizing them? You can't recognize what's not in you. And if what you recognize is negative, can I smile? That's not who I am. It belongs to this body, mind, sense complex. Or I can go into the story. And we know they're not all that productive. It's better to drop them or nip them in the bud. And I've had a moment of seeing what's in this persona. And I'm happy to see whatever's there to be seen. Because I don't want to suppress anything which is going to be a problem. So if I see it, it doesn't matter if it's dark or light. It's released. What I refuse to see, I continue to be. Can I just see it? And that recognition is mind recognizing its games and stories. It's nothing to do with water. It's everything to do with dropness. But I am not dropness. I am water. I am ocean. Then what's the need and the panic all about ground rush? It's because I've lost my identity with ocean. I've lost my identity with self. And I'm panicking now. Because it's all about me and my form, my attributes, all that I've practiced, all that I've learned, all I've educated. All of that's going to be lost in a moment. And I love to cling to what I know. So much so, I go down the plug with what I know. Because what I know defines me. Yeah, you can come and take my car, you can take my home even. I'll struggle a bit with my partner, but don't touch what I know. Because I know that what I know is correct. And man, do I hold on to that fiercely. Recalling that incident at Bhagavan's ashram in the Hindu belief that the state in which a soul is in at the time of crossing is going to determine the future. So he had reached rock bottom, persona-wise. He'd seen through bottomless, and he wanted to end it all, and he said, Bhagavan, if I hide on the side of the road with my bicycle and I wait for that Shengam bus to come past the ashram, and I suddenly cycle out in front of it, and I stay with the name Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Also one of my teacher's original. And the answer was, yes, you'll be fine, as long as you stay with that name. But who knows if you'll still be with the name 2 seconds before it hits you, which is the same thing. Ground rush, in this case, bus rush. Shengam bus rush. Yes, you can do that, but just in case you forget in the last 2 seconds, then it won't help you. So what is that bus rush? It is those moments in life that really test me, that are negative seeming, that are not positive, whatever the cause, whatever the outcome. I have a choice. Do I land in it or do I let it go? Am I cultivating self, small s, or am I cultivating capital self? What is my priority in this life? What do I want to cultivate? If I have upsets, it's a wonderful opportunity to see what has been hidden and suppressed. It's been aired, and I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm going to say thank you, yes. Now, what can it do after you've said thank you and yes? It's like not succumbing to ground rush. Yes, this is there. I'm not going to try and suppress it. Let it be. Let it flow through me. And that sense of ocean calling is the calling of that drop to return home to the ocean. It's a wonderful metaphor. It left as a prodigal daughter when there was a bit of hot sun on the sea. There was evaporation. And it traveled hundreds of kilometers, swept by winds, which are metaphors for thoughts, until they were big enough and coalesced enough to start falling. And then the true journey starts, the return home. The prodigal drops. And that was drops and dropness. And if you think of it, it sums up our attitude and the tragedy of a human life that misses an opportunity to follow what has been gifted as an experience of that state, and not to feed it and not to encourage it, but to be with it. If there are simple things, very simple things, maybe you're having one of your favorite little cookies or whatever touches you, or your favorite drink, whatever, or exercise or walk, anything that touches you, can I use that to zone in on the feeling of that? What is the feeling of that? And it's not a question in words, it's just to get your mind away from thinking about it. What's the feeling in that? What's the feeling now? Because that's waterness. It's nothing to do with dropness. Feeling into what is this? And when I feel into whatever in my environment, the beauty of a tree, the purring of a cat, everything's so perfect because there is no fear. It's only with adults that have got a thinking mind that have got fear. And that is all that is standing in the way. And Abba set us a very good example. In so many ways, we could see from him that sweetness and sourness made no difference whatsoever. Everything was what Sri Ram had delivered, what God had delivered. So I remember my first season in the Swiss Alps was one of our chalets that we had hired. The septic tank blew up and it was clogged. And I remember arriving on site to help, and there he was already calf deep in human feces, singing Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, just taking bucket loads and passing them to all the people around the site, and the smell. But he could equally be distributing prasad with the same joy. This was so amazing. It was so nice to see. Is there anything anybody would like to say or comment on anything? It doesn't have to be on what was said. No?
Just to go back to, you mentioned a Vedantic term, swarupa.
Swarupa, yeah.
My first question is just what that means.
Swarupa.
Yeah.
Swarupa and Namarupa are two terms used in Sanskrit. Namarupa, literally translated, means the name and the form. Swarupa means the eternal essence, is our right form, our eternal essence.
Because rupa is form, yeah?
Yeah, so Swa is our eternal form, our beautiful form. It's not related to body, mind, sense complex. So that would be waterness. Okay, dropness would be Namarupa. Yeah.
And so Swarupa would be Satchitananda.
Sorry?
Swarupa would be Satchitananda.
Could say that, yeah.
And then my second question is around infinite, I think you mentioned the term infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence.
Yeah. And I came across these two Sanskrit terms, The one was Vivatavada, and Ajatavada.
Don't know.
I think my understanding is that Vivatavada is the perspective that the world that we see is in appearance, it's an illusion.
That's partners, yes.
But then Ajatavada is the perspective that it's not that the world doesn't exist, even the illusion itself doesn't exist. And that confused me.
Why? Because you were using your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad you're getting confused.
Okay, good. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe that
Mind
it was a teaching in itself.
Yes.
It just stunted me.
Open cake, I'll get teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is why it is so difficult for us to comprehend Swarupa, is because we have been drilled so thoroughly into Namarupa from education onwards. We've been introduced to name and form. Form, form, form. Potness, kleyness, fatness, all forms. And with that, everything is separate, everything is different. And how many thousands of words have to flow between the two before they're both on the same page? Whereas if they weren't resident in mind, would there be need for any words, I wonder? And mind can't go there. That's Swarupa. I'm too busy with Namarupa, name and form. And all of us have been exposed to the same tragedy. How many times haven't we all tried to encourage our little babies to recognize forms? They were not form conscious. They were born in innocence. They weren't born in original separation or original sin. They were born in innocence until the not so innocent parents educated them into names and forms. And that's when they lost their innocence. The innocence of waterness and the new arrival of dropness, potness, kleyness, forms. And that's what constitutes the waking dream of Sri Ramana Maharshi, is our form consciousness, which is no longer essence consciousness. Is there anything else to that?
Maybe just around that perspective. So, Advait is non-separation. So, is the kind of ultimate understanding of it that form and essence aren't separate? That there is no separation, but because the mind is so caught up in form, that a distinction between Swarupa and Namarupa must
Right.
be.
Let's see if Swarupa and Namarupa can coexist.
Hmm.
Can potness exist as separate from clay?
Can
it exist at all? Can potness exist?
No.
So why do you want to put them together, potness and kleyness? Why do you want to put them together? One is real, one is doesn't exist.
Hmm.
So why do you want to put them together?
So there's just Swarupa.
The truth is, there's just one.
Just Swarupa.
Essence for all of us.
Hmm.
And when we wake up to that, we are enlightened, finally.
Yeah, so it's the snake in the stick. It's the ignorance that makes it appear like there's Namarupa.
We have been given these three arenas of human awareness. And we've got all three arenas existing in consciousness, capital C. And that consciousness was addressed last week with infinite intelligence. Cosmic intelligence is infinite, and it is only one. And it's the driver and the motivator of every single thing that you can possibly see or feel or taste or whatever. Now, what is that? Up to now, we will say it's God. Thank God for God. Vivekananda would say, you're still a heathen. You're still an atheist. Man is God. But who can go there? No mind can go there. It's impossible for mind to go there. Because it's on different orders of reality. You can't put Namarupa and Swarupa together. There's nothing. One is real, one doesn't exist. So how are you going to put them together? Any questions anybody would like to say or ask something? It can be anything. If there's more that you'd like to say, just talk. I feel it just makes the journey that much easier when I have this basic seed thought. In the beginning, you can step onto a gentle gradient. You can say, I am not separate from God. And you can feel reasonably comfortable with that. But if you had to say, I am God, what is the problem there? Firstly, who is saying that? Who is saying that? It's the persona. It's Namarupa saying it. Namarupa flexing its muscles. I am Swarupa. I am God. You can laugh. Maybe it has to hit the wall first. A few times. But then ultimately, if you say, I am man, then that is blasphemy. I am oneself. And I'll do anything to feed and nurture the oneself that I am. And it doesn't matter if I am misunderstood. You'll only be understood if you talk a lot. If you don't talk a lot, you have less chance of inviting other stuff. I think that's why most sadhus like to be quiet, they like to be slow, like to be silent. Because when 2 or 3 people get together, it's a recipe. I remember in the early days when we had retreats away, I think it was at Vaidikaya we started this. We had the yellow ribbon because it was noticed always on every retreat. There would be some retreatants that really wanted to retreat and others really enjoyed the social function of the Sangha. So tea break, it was talk break or stillness break. And I thought, okay, I can't say thou shalt or thou shalt not. So I ordered a long piece of yellow ribbon, cut into sections, and I said, okay, tea time, If you'd like to be quiet, please just tie a little yellow, and then people will see, and you will be looked after. And the others who want to, they can't help themselves, they will look for others who don't have the yellow thing on their arms. So both were happy. See, Roland, how often do you go back to that boat moment? Hmm? Does it keep you young? In your past, this life, if you can recall an incident, or several of them, where you were swept away, for lack of a better word, you were expanded, you felt free. Can I go back there and recall it? How is it when you recall something? Can you see and hear what's around you, or are you reliving that whole thing again? And what is it when you relive something? You don't do it partly. If you close your eyes and you relive that, all of what the mind has stored will come back, and so will that uplifted feeling. And then when the uplifted feeling comes, that is what I'm becoming more and more aware of, because that has got no form. It was dependent on other forms, but it itself is free of all forms. And that might be closer to the human goal of this life. So it's not that I'm advocating you busy yourself with photographic albums, but I'm just saying, if it touches you in a way that brings that state again back, once the state is brought back, don't stay with the picture anymore. Stay with that feeling. And even the premonition, or the mental saying, this is what I am. This, open quotes, THIS, close quotes, was for me the most beautiful name for everything. Think of the word this. There's no that. There's no then. There's no there. It's this. And if you don't try and put a word or a concept to it, it's the holiest name. It certainly was in my book, one of the holiest names of God. This. But that means this, without thinking about this. If you think about it, then you're off track already. And you heard me so often in the past, somebody would say, Pat, I was thinking that, and I would immediately say, yes, that's the problem. Who can be without thought? You have to have thoughts in the beginning. If you try not to have thoughts in the beginning, what will the response be? I think you all know the answer. There shall be no more thoughts. And the moment you've said that, they're already leaking through the floorboards. So just acknowledge them. Yes, they're there. Welcome. But I'm not going to feed you. I'm not going to pay too much attention to you. It's a classic case of help yourself to opinions and things, and I'll talk to you if you're still there half an hour later. Hmm? What is that cosmic intelligence? What is that ocean that I'm so frightened of? And I get ocean rush. What is guarding the grail? What is that fiery monster guarding the grail? And what is the grail representing? And the dragon that won't let you get it, what is that dragon? It's my dropness. And the Holy Grail is Swarupa, my eternal essence. But what prevents me from going there is none other than myself, the lower self. So is there any fear for those monsters guarding the grail? Or can I laugh at them now? And none other than me, the lower self. And more, I can laugh at more and more. And if you can laugh at it, it means you've seen it for what it is. And you have to laugh or cry. Same point.
Oh, where does the lower self get its power from? Because it's partness. So it's non-existent, but it seems to have the power to maintain itself.
Who's giving it that power? It's a mind that cannot think any more other than through form consciousness.
Mm.
And it has vested its power in that form.
In itself.
And what do you give your power away to? And is it necessary to give your power away to?
Mm.
And if you give it away to form, then form's got you.
Mm.
If you give it away to essence, then essence has got you. Ramana Maharshi, once you've tasted truth, your head's in the jaws of the tiger. You cannot take it out.
Yeah, that's nice. A friend told me recently, he said, we have one choice in this life, and that's what we worship. I feel like that's similar. What we choose to worship, essence or form.
Well, coming onto the table next to that is what Ramana Maharshi and Albert Einstein said, there is no such thing as free will.
Mm.
Now what you're going to do with that?
Yeah.
Who you're going to believe, put it that way.
Mm.
And you're back to belief again.
Mm.
You're back to your head.
Mm.
It's like putting potness and clay together. You can't, because one's real, one isn't.
Mm. Yeah, so there's no real choice.
But having said that, it appears as though there is no free choice.
Mm.
Now here the road is extra slippery. Because standing in the way now is also my vasanas that are brought in from a past life. And I can so easily blame a vasana. Whereas I get a knee jerk to do that. And I can consider now, is that coming from me? Or is it coming from knee jerk? Coming from history? It's not part of this. And now I have the free choice to say yes or no to it. And if the seed has been planted that it might not be the truth, when in doubt, do not. Don't do anything. But when you start to see that this is not the total truth, then just leave it for the moment. If it's true, it will revisit you. That was the other wonderful teaching with Appa. Whatever is yours will come back to you. It's yours. And that goes back to an incident with, what's his name again? He was the conductor for the Munich Symphonic Orchestra. The Munich Philharmonic Orchestra. He was the conductor. And he said to Appa in one session, he said, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I will have this amazing melody, strain, whatever, not from here. But by the time I fumbled around and found a pencil, it's gone. And he was quite thunderstruck the next morning. It's like he lost out on this major thing. Appa just smiled and he said, what's yours will come back to you. It will find you again. And you will be home this time. And it did. And since then, he never took pencil and paper into his bedroom again. What's not meant to be is not meant to be. What is will find me. Is there anything else anybody would like to say? All right. Just sit quiet for a few minutes and just drop everything that's been said tonight if you can. As best you can. Drop the dropness is my message. Can you drop the dropness? Even if you have to imagine yourself as that water droplet at one stage in your life, visualize it, be it, go through all the feelings as you get surface rush and just keep going, keep going, keep going, until you don't count anymore. And what you thought you were had served its purpose like a booster rocket. It's finished. Just drop it, whatever it is in your mind. Drop it. No.